Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group with your end of day market recap for Wednesday, July 12th. Really nice performance and breadth in the market today. We will go over all the movers. We'll also talk about some of the sector performers as well as the individual names. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only. Please read the full risk disclaimer right there. Themes of the day. Well, of course, the big event that many investors, traders were waiting for to kind of get through was the CPI report. And that report came in and it cooled basically. So here were the numbers: CPI month over month 0.2 versus 0.3, and over the year over year again, which is just a compilation of the last 12 reports, came in at 3% versus 3.1. Some people looking at the core number as well, coming in a little bit lighter than expected. So the market really cheered that on. Don't forget, tomorrow we also get the PPI report, and we'll get initial jobless claims for tomorrow. One of the things always when we have one of these data points that comes out is just to see if there's any major change in what the short-term interest rate, the one that the Fed controls, the overnight rate, if there's any major changes in expectations for the coming FOMC meeting, which is on July 26th. There's basically no change. It sounds like the Fed wants to raise interest rates another time. That is currently already priced into the market. That's why I look at this screen. I want to know what is being priced in versus what may not be priced in. And right now the market is pricing in that they're going to raise interest rates another 25 basis points. Right. Again, what I generally get concerned about, as well as many other traders, is whether there's going to be a surprise that's going to be in the market, or whether the market is not pricing something in. So that's what we have for 726. What came in a little bit is those expectations for a second hike, right? We've heard a few of these Fed speakers. I think we actually had like 5 Fed speakers today, but they're kind of saying the same thing from my standpoint. I don't hang on every word of what these fellows and ladies are saying, but I think coming into today, we've heard a lot about two more interest rate hikes, another 25, another 25, but the expectations kind of came in a little bit. So again, this is a far way away. We still have a couple weeks before the July meeting, but the next meeting, there won't be actually one in August, which is going to be pretty nice. So we're talking about pretty far ahead, but regardless, that's what kind of has moved a little bit, and the market embraced that. A couple things before we even get into the equity moves and what the indices did and what single names did. I want to talk a little bit about some of these macro things like the dollar, because this is important, because when the dollar sells off, it is more of a risk on environment. And that was a big move today in the dollar, down 1.2%. Notice there's a downside VPOC being taken out. So maybe we rebound a little bit from here. But regardless, I mean, that's part of why, or a translation into why there was such a risk-on move today. The market likes when that happens. Equity market. Also, bonds have been rebounding quite nicely. Now, this is the 30-year bond future, and we've had this nice rebound. Remember, we could look at TLT too, but TLT was down more than 3% last week, and this was really nice to see this up 1%, or and here's TLT, by the way. There is going to be a decision coming up here if we get all the way back to the bottom of value. That was the breakdown area, whether or not that's going to be rejected or not. But regardless, coming into this week, I did not want to see interest rates move higher, and we've actually seen interest rates go lower and bond prices go up here. So that's was a big question of mine coming into this week. So just to kind of cover cover a couple of these things. And of course, gold got going today. When you have a dollar going down like this was finally a big move by gold. I don't have anything on gold. I had talked about it the way that when we do our pre-market session every day, starting at 9-10 in the morning, I go over gold as well as bonds and some of these other things, as well as what crude has been doing in the pre-market session. And you could access that by being a Tribeca Trade Group member, which I'll talk about in a minute. But I've said, hey, if you like gold, we had a downside VPOC takeout and a bounce on the 200-day moving average. And believe it or not, like this is one of the biggest moving areas for the day, because if you look at gold miners, they were up huge today. GDX was up 5%. Remember, we did see a Newmont call buyer. I think it was about 2 weeks ago. So they got rewarded today. This was up 4% today. I still like, out of this group, if I were to play something, it would probably be Franco-Nevada. That's my favorite within the group. And that had a nice day today. In fact, you could have even chased the open there, because this basically trended all day long today, the gold miners. And it was kind of interesting to see what names actually did trend for the day after the gap up versus kind of gap up and not do much. There was a lot of that that I saw today, more in names that have been pretty strong. We saw some areas, like even for some of the growth names, but even like, for example, the industrial names. XLI actually finished down on the day, and it gave back a lot of the gain. So I was in a trade today, and I kind of just saw that a little bit. And I got a nice gain out of Caterpillar from adding a trade yesterday, and I just said, you know what, I don't need to kind of press it. And I saw it kind of coming in a little bit, so I took this trade off. But this is a lot of, if you go through charts, you're going to see some of these red candles where we gapped up and there was some profit taking. But gold miners and a few other areas were very strong. So let me just talk about the indices really quick, because I always start that. That's usually the first place that I start off with in these videos. So S&P, this is something that I've been kind of laboring about the last, over the last week, because where we started the month was right here, and we kind of came in, and I didn't know if this was going to be a double top or not, right? I mean, always when you're going through charts and when you're looking at things, in my opinion, you want to be objective and kind of pick up on what a pattern might be. Sometimes we see the beginning of a pattern, but it doesn't play out completely that way, but we still want to have levels, right? And one of the things as well, coming into this week, how we set this week up, I said I was concerned about interest rates and also the 20-day moving average. So this has been the second very methodical test, dip. Again, this has not been that difficult, right? I mean, a move up, test into the 20-day. And again, this is why I have these moving averages on my charts, because they do give you a sense of what the short-term trend and the longer-term trend is up to. But this was a nice check back to the 20-day moving average back towards the end of June, and then we had another one, right? And this was in the beginning of the week here, hammer bar at the 20-day moving average and a bounce and out to new highs for the year. We made it through the value area. We also, on the 1-hour chart, I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to kind of make it into the value area for the week. As we kind of look at this, right, this was right in the beginning of the week, VPOC takeout and S&P, nice reversal off of that. We stalled a little bit on the first attempt, but we made it through, and this triggered the 80% rule, which we went over in my Substack. I talked about that, and the 80% rule played out. Price went from one end of the value area to the other, and then even went through here. So impressive. I'm just going to go over the Qs chart as well really quickly. But kind of the same thing going on here, not maybe as neat as that S&P chart, but same thing. We held where we needed to, 20-day moving average. And also, Friday was tricky, right? I was out the majority of the day Friday, but it got rejected there at the top of value for the second time. But the third time was the charm here, and the CPI report was the catalyst. Also, even today, you know, and we've been seeing this throughout the trading sessions where we're getting either like a small sell program washes through. This happened, you know, we hit the highs around 10 o'clock this morning, pulled back, but again, we're pulling right back into support. So, you know, if you are using volume at price and the TTG market webs, right, you know, this is one of the things that I posted in the room. I said, okay, we've got to check back to 370.90. You know, these are 1 hour bars, so you do have to wait an hour for the confirmation. But we held here, and you know, we managed to kind of recoup. We didn't take out the highs of the session, but you know, you could see that we held where we needed to, right? One other thing I'm going to mention here in IWM is that we took out this virgin point of control up here. So again, if you're not familiar with what a virgin point of control is, you could see my pinned tweet where we go over exactly what the market webs, you know, how to use them. But this is an area of overhead supply, this virgin point of control. So it's going to be a battle between the buyers and sellers, right? Meaning that if there's overhead supply, there's probably some sellers up here. And notice that we did kind of fade from here a little bit. Right. Again, still a big day, up 1%, but this could be an area where where IWM digests a little bit, right? But if there's new buyers that want to push through this level, it can happen. But you're going to need to see the buyers overwhelm the sellers. All right, so let's get into some areas of the market. The first area that I wanted to talk about was the home builders, and the only thing that I really played within this group. Now I have a longer term position on in the TTG trend portfolio, and I actually added yesterday. I have ITB on in the portfolio, and I also have on XHB, which I thought might begin to outperform the ITB, but you know, with the move in interest rates, I think helped. But it's amazing to see this test of the 20-day moving average, and what a nice trending day for the home builders today. And also, what's really impressive is I noted on Twitter that we had a bearish engulfing candle last week for the ITB home builders ETF. And one of the things that I've said with chart patterns is you could have some really ugly looking candles, whether it's on the daily chart or the weekly chart. But if you don't break trend, right, then there's no reversal, right? So again, kind of using, that's the way that I use technicals. I kind of note when there's a chart pattern, but the trend is always more important to me, right? Because again, like I said, you could have a really ugly looking candle, but if it doesn't have any follow through, and if it doesn't break support, then there may be nothing to worry about, right? And that's the situation. Now, again, we still have 2 more days left in the week, but I'll tell you, that's very impressive. And of course, if you go through some of these names here and the home builders, it's, it's, again, the word that I'm using a lot when you see this type of price action is just, it's impressive. And here's what the DHI did today. The TR Horton did today, of 3.6%. And again, look at the trending day it had. So you could have bought the open in these names today. Toll Brothers had a nice day today too. And Pulte, of course, is one. I mean, there's various names. I could spend another 5 minutes here going through home building names, but I won't do it. I've been talking a lot about the flooring names, right? They've had the Floor and Decor had a really nice name. I did get out of my TREX position today. I mean, look at the, I mean, again, you would think, oh, geez, this is a, an EV play or, a high short interest name, right? They're not high short, they're not high short interest names, but look at the check back of $61. That's a big move, right? I think this is about 10, 11% that this made in just a couple days for flooring companies. And AZEK has been a little bit of the underperformer. It's funny because I think I mentioned this in yesterday's video too, but this was the name that I was going to buy. It was on our watch list to start the week, but again, no slouch here because it did well. But I decided to change it to TREX because I thought the chart was a little bit better. Also, another name, kind of in this home building type name, which saw some calls today. Crazy that they're buying calls on the highs like this, but LPX, right? So there's, you know, it just shows you when you kind of connect the dots, right? Put together the puzzle a little bit, you know, it just shows you that there's a lot of demand in housing when you see lumber going up, flooring names going up, and then the builders doing it as well. So impressive. And again, a lot of these names are not really expensive in terms of like a PE ratio. So I'll move away from the from the from the housing names, but you know, these are names that are hitting highs. And you know, here is the I brought up yesterday the new 52-week highs list in just in the S&P alone. Again, you've got some tech names in here, right? You've got a few of the semiconductors that did well today. I'll talk about that group in just a minute. But a lot of the industrials, again, even though they kind of gave back some gains. And then you also have this consumer cyclical group, which is some travel names in there. I see Marriott in there again. But you've got some auto names in there, Orly, BWA, and you also have your housing names in there too. All right, so an interesting group that's hitting 52-week highs. Again, the observation to make here is it's not just one sector, it's not just one group. You've got multiple things going on here. Let me talk about again, like this, I'm trying to make today a short video, but it's tough to. Salesforce continuation, right? Look at where this thing is going, and again, I think it goes to 230, but nice follow through from yesterday. Let me talk about the names that everybody talks about. Tesla still is kind of just sitting back here. I think if you've got patience here and you're longer term, or you know, not just looking for day trades, but you know, I think this digestion is perfectly normal. Right, there's been a lot of call positioning in this thing, so I would keep an eye on Tesla. You know, set an alert, but you don't have to kind of look at this, you know, every single day. All right, you know, you could basically just set an alert. NVIDIA, right? I mean, that continues to kind of do its thing. You know, after some digestion, this is now breaking the value area. So I would watch this one tomorrow because it did break its value area at 435. So some nice continuation there. And another one too, Meta, which has been, you know, despite this NASDAQ rebalance, NASDAQ 100 rebalance that's going to happen. You know, one of the names that will be reweighted is Meta, but it hung in there all week long. It did not sell off like a few of the other names did. And look at this thing. It's actually got above its channel. So super impressive there. A couple names, a couple other names to mention. I've been all over this INMD. They came out and announced preliminary results today. But we really caught this thing pretty nicely. And I did add this to the TTG trend portfolio yesterday. But I just like that the fact that once it's breaking out of its value area for the year, some exciting things can happen. And again, you know, really nice to see this push out of this sideways channel and now breaking above its value area. So I caught all of this one today up 11%. This was something that, you know, just going through charts, I managed to find this one Monday night, and we talked about it in the trading room a bit on Tuesday morning, that I thought it was starting to kind of look pretty nice. Another one that I like too is this IDXX, which I've mentioned now in a couple of these videos. Notice what this did today. It it kind of just digest and that, you know, pulled back a little bit, let the moving average kind of catch up to it, and out to new highs. To talk about some of the more momentum type names, MBLY, I think this is an interesting one. I actually took a small position in this one. We'll see if it can hold above 42.66. And then of course RIVN, right, which has been super strong. You know, I like this kind of digestion. Again, same thing, letting the 5-period moving average kind of catching up a little bit to this thing. And again, you know, took out a lot of overhead supply. And next place up that I see is 29.46 as well as 31. What has me excited about this one is just like I talked about with InMode, INMD is the weekly chart. Now this one is not breaking out above the value area, but it broke into the value area. So notice what it now says here: 80% rule is in effect for this year, right? Now, of course, you kind of have to understand that would be a colossal move for this name, but I'll trade on the side of that. So I added a little bit of a RIVN position. I actually added that as a small weight into the TTG trend position. Again, it's already made a big move, over the last couple of weeks, but you have to ask yourself, is the move just starting, or is it just going to be a little bit of a pop and that's it? One thing it of course could do is check back to the top of, the bottom of value, and that could also be a place to get involved in it, and that's about $5 down. All right, guys, that is it for today's video. One thing I would add is be mindful that you have the PPI report tomorrow. This has been a really nice week. Be practical. One of the things that I talked about in the trading room today was, the moves that we've had have been, awesome this week, right? But just keep in mind, at some point there's going to be a little bit of probably profit taking. Don't forget, we're going to have, earnings season is going to start. So the word that I use today is just don't get sloppy with your risk taking. Confidence is great in trading. Overconfidence is bad. So stay grounded with what you're doing, in my opinion. Also, look at our watch list for the week. This is incredible. Some of the names that, are up this much from the trigger, this is, we've got a pretty decent watch list here, and there's been a lot of participation. Coupon code to be a member of Tribeca Trade Group. This is for first time members. You can get half off your first month. So this is a great way to kind of check out how we kind of break down the market and find relative strength. And you could use coupon code TTG 2023 to get half off your first month. Check it out. Let me know if you have any questions. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.